You know what's at stake. There is no room for illusions. He has a plan, but something is missing, a sign. Without it, nothing changes. He observes, he waits, he analyzes, and you, on the other hand, remain expectant. Uncertainty becomes a constant. What seems to be a moment of pause is actually a repetitive cycle. The pattern is clearly defined. He ignores the signals you try to send. You justify his actions. Deep down, you know he is not ready to act. Time passes and you wonder, until when? You cling to the idea that something extraordinary is going to happen, but what really exists is stagnation. He is trapped by fear, you hold on to hope, and so the cycle repeats. The truth is stark and raw. The bond persists because you feed this dynamic. Standing still is not a passive option. It is an active choice. And as long as he doesn't see the sign, the cost is all yours. You want to believe that a grand gesture is on the way, but the reality is that he needs to decide, and that doesn't depend on you. The time has come to face the facts. The sign may never come. And what do you do with that? The responsibility is yours. The reality has already been presented. You feel the weight of time dragging on. Each second is a missed opportunity, and stagnation becomes your only companion. The promises that weren't kept echo in your mind, like shadows of a future that never arrives. You know he is aware of the impact he causes. He is not innocent. His indifference screams louder than any words you could have said. The realization that you are trapped in this cycle is uncomfortable. You try to rationalize his failures, but the truth is that he prefers the safety of the known, even when it means sacrificing what could be extraordinary. In the meantime, you search for signs in everything around you, in the songs playing, in the conversations you have. At every corner of life, there is an echo of the hope you still carry. It is almost an obsession. What will happen? When will he finally take action? You find yourself telling stories to yourself, creating alternate scenarios that will never come to pass. Time continues to pass, and with it, your patience wears thin. You begin to realize that the sign you are waiting for may be a mirage. The idea that change is just a few steps away starts to fade. What was once hope turns into doubt, and doubt is a treacherous shadow. It infiltrates the mind and contaminates thoughts with uncertainty. You wonder, am I being foolish? The images of an idealized love clash with the harsh reality. You do not want to be the only one fighting for this relationship. But on the other hand, the idea of giving up is paralyzing. The bond remains, but not with the strength you imagine. It is a worn thread, about to snap. Something that should connect you now only ties you down. And you know that if it continues like this, you will not be able to bear the pressure for much longer. He watches but does not act, and you wonder if it is still worth waiting. The expectation that was once full of emotions now turns into a burden. The days drag on, and the light of what could be fades slowly. When you decide to face reality, something changes within you, not because of him, but for yourself. You begin to understand that standing still is not a matter of comfort, but a way of imprisoning yourself. The cost of this dynamic is clear and unbearable. It is hard to accept, but your presence is not enough to move mountains. He does not care, or at least not in the way you need. This is not about love, it is about power. And those who have control will never need to chase after it. In this emotional chess game, you realize that you need to make your move. If you wait for him to make a move, you will always be the sacrificed piece on the board. You begin to realize that your responsibility is greater than you thought. Instead of waiting for a sign that may never come, perhaps it is time to send a clear message. The decision to act is vital. It is no longer about what he will or will not do. It is about you. The choice you make now echoes in the universe. And this choice should reflect your essence, not what someone else believes you should be. Each person has their own path. You can no longer sustain something that only exists if there is pain. It is like keeping a boat afloat with holes in its hull. You are sinking without realizing it, not because you are not strong, but because you insist on carrying a weight that is not yours. And when clarity appears, it brings with it the certainty that the cycle can be broken. There is no need to wait for someone to make a decision for you. Freedom comes when you take responsibility, whether to move forward or to set your own limits. You decide that you will no longer feed this uncertainty. Unfulfilled promises are not worth your devotion. You no longer need to justify his lack of action. The sign you were waiting for is an illusion, and the reality that presents itself now is the only one that matters. Attachment is a choice. Hope can be a trap. And when you finally become aware of this, everything changes. The decision to stop and reevaluate becomes necessary. This moment is not an end, but a restart on your own terms. The reality has already been presented. As soon as you recognize the illusion, a weight begins to dissipate. It is like seeing the light at the end of a tunnel that seemed endless. Awareness of your own strength is liberating. You no longer need to wait for an external change. The power has always been within you, but it was overshadowed by the fear of uncertainty. You remember the sleepless nights, counting the minutes until he replied to a message that never arrived. The expectation drained your energy. Every vibration of the cell phone became an echo of hope, only to be replaced by frustration. Now, looking back, you see it clearly, a vicious cycle where you were the only one spinning on the wheel of pain. He is there, in front, but distant. And that distance is not merely physical. It is emotional, an invisible barrier that you helped build. The truth is that he has settled into this dynamic. For him, the lack of movement is comfortable. For you, it is oppressive. The promises made in moments of emotion were lost in the sands of time. What remains is a shadow of all that could have been. The anxiety that used to dominate you now turns into clarity. You realize that this weight has a higher cost than you imagined. His silence no longer resonates as loneliness, but as an affirmation that you deserve more. Reconnecting with yourself, you discover your own passions, desires, and longings that were buried under layers of others' expectations. You begin to make deliberate choices. The coffee you always drank alone is now accompanied by a book, music, or a walk you choose to enjoy. In every small decision, there is a new sense of freedom. You look at the world around you no longer through the lens of what could be, but for what it truly is. And in this new space, new opportunities begin to arise. You join groups, make new friends, explore interests that you had abandoned. Life expands before you like an open field, full of possibilities. Instead of waiting for his signal, you find signs in everything around you. Small reminders that the future is not a destination delivered to someone, but a construction of your own. And there is an unsettling beauty in that. You allow yourself to feel joy without the need for validation. Laugh, live, love. All of this can now happen independently of anyone else. The deepest learning this phase has brought you is that you don't need a sign to be complete. The questions that once haunted your mind begin to fade away. What does he think? What does he feel? Does he care? These questions become irrelevant. The relentless search for external answers transforms into an inner quest. The desire to understand the other vanishes as you get closer to who you truly are, but it's not a pain-free path. There's a part of you that still grieves what could have been. Accepting this is fundamental. This fragility that emerges from acknowledging the loss is what makes life real. You don't need to cling to memories as an anchor. You can use them as a boost. You allow yourself to feel longing, but you don't let it keep you trapped. This is true freedom, recognizing what is gone and moving forward, understanding that love doesn't always turn into connection, that promises might just be words, and accepting that the journey back to yourself is the greatest act of love you can offer. As you move forward, the shadows diminish. Each step is a confirmation that you are alive. And even though moments of uncertainty may still arise, you now have the tools to face them. What matters is the determination not to lose yourself in vicious cycles any longer. The bond that was once significant now becomes just a distant memory. He may continue to wait, to observe, but you are no longer a sacrificial piece in his game. You are now in control of your own story. Reality does not need to be altered by anyone other than yourself. And so, with every conscious choice, you rebuild yourself. You recognize what is essential and what needs to be left behind. Self-love flourishes, and you become the architect of your own happiness. There will be no more room for illusions. What remains is the certainty that the best is yet to come. Reality has already been presented. What remains now are the scars that tell the story of your journey. Scars that are not signs of weakness, but of resilience. You have learned to dance in the storm. Every drop is a reminder that pain is temporary and learning is eternal. Deep down, a seed of anger began to sprout. Not the kind of anger that consumes, but a clear indignation. He had his time, the time you generously offered, often ignoring your own needs. Now that anger transforms into fuel. You realize that, for a long time, you were willing to accept crumbs while waiting for the full table. The truth is a sharp sword. You can choose what to place on your table, and there is no reason to settle for less than you deserve. Redefining your expectations is a powerful act. The past does not need to dictate the future. With every step you take, you begin to draw new lines on the map of your life. And these lines are not just about love or relationships, but about life, ambition, and what it truly means to be free. Freedom is not just the absence of someone by your side. It is an invitation to explore the complexity of the world without ties. You begin to realize that the small pleasures, a walk outdoors, a steaming cup of coffee on a sunny morning, reading a book that truly touches you, are essential parts of this new phase. In each of them, you find a piece of happiness that was previously hidden under the shadows of waiting. You begin to draw new boundaries, not manipulative, but clear and firm. And within these limits, you discover a new sense of security. Friendships begin to blossom. Those who were around you but whom you did not see clearly. They were always there, waiting for you to look at them beyond the mists of emotional confusion. The connection you form now is genuine, based on mutual respect and understanding. Every shared laugh and every deep conversation fills a space that used to be occupied by uncertainty. And so you understand that love is not only found in romantic relationships. It exists in all forms of human connection, friendships, family, even self-love, that become solidified with every small victory. Each day is a new opportunity to open doors that were previously unnoticed. In fact, self-exploration becomes a new passion. You dive into old hobbies and discover new ones. Dance, which was once just a distant memory of joy, returns as a whisper in your mind. You allow yourself to feel the music vibrating through your body. There is no one to judge, just you and your movements. The expression becomes liberating. The walls of the emotional prison you once built begin to slowly crumble. Yes, there are moments when doubt still whispers. Sometimes the shadow of comparison appears, trying to pull you back into that old spiral. But now you have tools. You breathe deeply. Invite doubt in, but do not give up control. You know you are no longer in search of external validation. Strength comes from within. And as the new life unfolds, you notice how growth brings a new perspective. You observe people around you, some trapped in the same cycles you once knew. Compassion emerges. You do not wish for them to suffer as you suffered. Not out of pity, but from a deep understanding that only someone who has walked that path can have. This empathy does not bind you, but strengthens you. You decide to be the voice that encourages, not the one that criticizes. And in this process, something magical happens. The more you share your experiences, the more you heal. The stories you tell become lessons, not burdens. Each word spoken is a step towards freedom. The relationships that grow around you are more solid. There is room for vulnerability now. And what becomes clear is that true intimacy does not emerge from perfection, but from mutual acceptance of flaws. You are a mosaic of imperfections, and that is beautiful. Now you find yourself facing a new horizon, a future that is not defined by someone else, but by who you want to become. Autonomy is like a radiant light in the midst of darkness. The choice to move forward is yours, and it is powerful. The truth is that the struggle was never a lack of love. It was the search for definition and clarity. And now, with freedom within your reach, you choose to build something that reflects your most authentic essence. What matters is your perception of yourself. You leave behind insecurities, comparisons, and especially the idea that the value of a connection depends on someone else's validation. You remember now that love is a vast territory, and each step you take now is on your own terms. The world is yours, and you do not need to wait for any sign. Reality has already presented itself.